First, it's a great pleasure to speak to you from Puttaparthi, which is the Abode of Peace. My name is Isaac Tigrett. I've been coming to Puttaparthi since I was 24 years old. I'll be 64 shortly, although I feel like a 14-year-old boy trapped in a 64-year-old body, and have been completely and totally blessed to be under the guidance of my master and teacher, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. As we all are aware, he left his body over a year or so ago, and it's been a very interesting thing. He told me many years ago that many devotees would be leaving him. And I think he arranged all kinds of rumors and situations to occur that really, as he said, separate the wheat from the chaff. We are all here basically on a personal journey to discover our true identity and nothing more. People seek their spiritual identity either from time of being very young, where it becomes a predominant aspect of why am I here. Many don't look for that identity until mortality is staring them in the face, but it doesn't make any difference. I've been very blessed to be near the form, which means nothing. I'll never forget, after some 20 years, in about 2006 or so, Swami at first told me that I should stay here for the rest of my life, which is where I'm speaking to you from the room that he gave me 25 years ago, which is my home here in the Abode of Peace. And it was an extraordinary experience for his leaving the body. There were many reasons that people came here, and they're basically privately between him and the individual. Some came to see the miraculous show of went on twice a day with something called darshan, when he would appear, and his energy was extreme. It would affect some people in a very dramatic way. It would put other people in awe. But it was basically, to many, an event, a show. Some came to get a blessing. Some came out of curiosity for the Guru of Gurus, which India has always had a Pacific master of tremendous importance to the country and to Hinduism, and Sai Baba was certainly that. He was also the most powerful political figure in this country, which I don't think people really understood because of his unique position and because of the nature of the Hindu culture. Sai Baba could reach out to anyone in this country politically, whether it be the Prime Minister or Sonia Gandhi. I watched him entertain the last 7 or 8 Prime Ministers over the many years that I've been here. And if he wanted anything, he, not even personally, but would have his secretary simply call and they would immediately respond. Many came here, of course, during a political election time to get the photo op with the great Sai Baba, probably to get some extra votes. Some were quite sincere and remained devotees. But this is a personal journey that we're all on, and I have to say that, for me, because of the amazing phenomenon that I have experienced by being blessed to have been close to him and have him guide me in my life on a personal basis, which is not important. It gave everyone the wrong impression of me. People have an image that because one person is closer to the form, that they are more advanced or more important than others. This couldn't be further from the truth. As Sai Baba has said to all of us in his teachings over and over and over again, you're all divine beings. I'm a divine being, you're a divine being. The only difference has been throughout history with all of these masters that have appeared on the planet is they have become realized beings or merged with their true personality, which is divinity. They know it, and unfortunately we don't. We're on that journey to try to find that identity. So being close to the form is totally irrelevant and gives people the wrong impression of the people that were blessed to be close. No one knows why. He had one person perhaps closer than another, but it meant nothing to him. You know, he was not here, I can assure you, to build hospitals, to build ashrams, to do water projects, to create a huge organization. These were all basically movie sets in which people were brought together to learn, but in particularly to experience the only thing that he was interested in, which was your personal transformation. That was, as has been with all divine masters, their main reason for incarnating on the planet and for people to come within their aura or their energy fields. Sai Baba is not the first, nor will he be the last divine master that has evolved on this planet. Those that we know, and there are many, many that we are not aware of that have been here, all came, whether it be the Buddha, who only had a handful of people that were around him during the short time he was here. Zarathustra, who was here for the religion that formed after he left, and which was the interesting part of his writings and so forth. As with all the writings of all the masters, Jesus Christ had 12 disciples, was only really around for 2 or 3 years in Jerusalem, and had a small following. Muhammad was here for a short time, also with just a handful of people around him. Going back into the history of Hinduism, Krishna, who lived 5,380 years ago, beyond belief, and had only a handful of people around him that had any inclination of who he was. And Lord Rama, another Hindu realized being, only had 12 rishis who knew who he was. But they all left behind not only their vibrations on this planet, but writings, things that were written about them. The Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Old Testament, which Moses was here to gift to the world. The New Testament about Jesus Christ, the Quran, which Muhammad delivered, the writings of Buddha, which were left behind by him, and the writings of Sai Baba. What happens is that, because these massive religions have been formed around these men long after they've gone, and none of them really came here to start a religion, as Sai Baba has said when he came here. And of course, the most interesting thing is it was always with him all-inclusive of all religions, which he spoke of often. He was not here to start a new religion or a new following. But what happens with all of these divine beings is they leave behind these teachings and these writings. And people at some time on their journey trying to discover their spiritual definition will open up one of these books, and the energy of these divine words, or as they say in the Vedas, the Jyoti light, comes out of these writings and suddenly affect individuals and say, oh my God, I get it. This has changed my whole life. I'm a Hindu because it's the Hindu culture, and they've read the Bhagavad Gita, or they've read the Quran, or they've read the Old Testament or the New Testament or whatever. And that's when these religions formed and swept the planet, because of the power and the energy left behind in these words, and also the energy of these beings themselves. They say that Sai Baba has gone, and Jesus has gone, and Buddha has gone, and Muhammad has gone. Yet Jesus, who died 212,000 years ago, has over 1 billion devotees on this planet, where he started off with 12. Muhammad, who died 900 years ago, has hundreds and hundreds of millions of devotees who follow his teachings. Lord Buddha as well has millions and millions of people who follow his teachings, and so on and so forth. These masters come not all at the same time, but they came at particular times in certain cultures. It was the same energy. All of their writings say exactly the same thing. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Follow the basic values, human values of life, of love and peace and truth and righteousness. It's all the same message, but they occurred at a particular time in history in various cultures around the world, in which these religions sprang and proliferate to this day. It's so funny though, because in the organizational sense of religions, including the organization that has been left behind by Sai Baba and created around him, him being the first, I can only say, international master to arrive because of the proliferation of broadcasting, the internet, instead of these other masters who had only handfuls of people. This modern master had millions of people that found out about him, were affected by his writings, as I was, because that's what really changed my life, not particularly him, who was and is and remains an enigma completely to all of us, because only a realized being can recognize another realized being. I think that's why he said, I can count my true devotees on one hand. I believe he's speaking of the 5 other avatars that exist now on this planet, because they are the only ones who could truly recognize him. There's various theories of who these masters may or may not be. Babaji in Hinduism, who lived hundreds of years ago. Saint Germain, who lived hundreds of years ago, who has affected the Christian faith. And I think there are others that are here, whether in South America or other parts of the planet, and these are really the 5 true devotees, because how could you possibly understand an enigma of a realized being unless you were a realized being? But with Sai Baba, it was a very interesting way in which he used me, and basically used my presence and image and my closeness to him to do his work. One day, after 20 years of sitting on the veranda, he called me. This was about 2006, at approximately the time in which he told me to stay here until the end of my days, which I am doing, with tremendous happiness that he even allowed me to stay here and be part of the energy that's in this place. But he called me out to where he sat in front of his devotees. And he said, Tigret, he said, you have a backache. And I said, no, Swami, I don't have a backache. And being on my knees next to him in his chair, he immediately grabbed my back and forced my torso, my upper body, across his, which I don't know if anyone has ever laid in his lap in public, but shocked me and of course many of the people who were there. And he started rubbing one little spot behind my right shoulder and rubbing in a small circle. And in the meantime, people were coming up and he was blessing this and talking to them about that. And this went on for about 10 or 15 minutes. And I was totally confused as to what was going on, as I'm sure everybody else, because no one really knew what he was ever doing, which is part of the excitement of being around a being like this. I left that morning and went home, and before I got home in my room, which is where we are recording this today, I suddenly had the worst backache that I have ever had or ever experienced, or pain I've ever experienced in my life. It was as if somebody had taken a knife or an ice pick and jammed it into this tiny little spot that he'd been rubbing. That afternoon at the darshan, or his appearance, he called me over and he said, Tigret, do you have a backache? I said, Swami, I have the worst backache that I have ever had in my entire life. And he immediately called the Savior dolls. He says, bring a chair. And they brought this chair, and I'd been sitting on the floor like everyone else had done. And he said, put the chair there, and he put it right in front in a place where people who were sitting in the crowds, which could be 20,000 people, which was being filmed on a daily basis, could only really see me, because I was sitting up in a chair and everyone else was sitting down on the floor behind a brass railing and so forth. And when he told me to sit in the chair, I said, Swami, I'm sorry, I can't sit in that chair. Being extremely aware of metaphysics, and which is another subject that's impossible to really relate to you, that the evil eye would be on me. No one was going to be out there saying, oh, I'm so happy for Mr. Tigret sitting up there on the veranda, you know, so close to the master. And I said, Swami, I cannot sit there without your protection, because, you know, there will be such dynamic evil energy. And he said, that's right, Tigret. He said, I will protect you. He said, but you now have a role to play for me. You are my bait for evil. And I went, oh my God, bait for evil, what a job. And then immediately I realized, having studied his methodology as much as I could, that Swami was indeed, and acted like, many times, a Zen master. And traditionally the way a Zen master would work is that he would draw out of the devotees and the people around him the things that needed to be changed. So being a bait for evil meant that he was going to use me to create envy for sitting there, jealousy, which eventually leads to anger and hatred. And I would truly be his bait for evil. Even though he was protecting me, I could hear the little ding, 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 ding going on around me in this protective orb that he gave me to put on, which I put on like an overcoat every morning in front of this particular Ganesha statue before I went to sit in my chair as the bait for evil. And I realized, and it's, you know, having been here for so many years, this is not an abode of peace, or at least during the last years. It was more like an insane asylum. If you came here and transformation was his main purpose of bringing someone here, if that was their karma to be here, and their problem was anger, then he would see to it that they were angry as possibly can be the entire time that they were here, till they got to the point of being uncontrollable, and they would realize, gee, I got a problem with anger. I got to work on anger. Or if it was lust, or envy, or hatred, or jealousy, or whatever it might be, he would draw this out of you. This was part of his grace and his gift to you, to make you see exactly what your problem was and what you had to work on. The only way any of these masters could possibly transform you, because we're so self-involved, is to bring out of you that which needs to be changed and have you face it full forward. He had another delightful trick, is that if you didn't get it, and you were suffering from anger, he would send to sit next to you and be with you all the time someone who was even more angry than you were, so that you could realize that, God, being angry is not cool and I need to do something about this. So for these many years I took on this amazing responsibility, which to me was a gift, but only as I insisted, and he was kind enough to protect me. Having the job as a bait for evil, it sounds like a pretty serious job. But if you believe in the Master and you trust the Master, which is so important for all devotees, is to trust and accept that he knows what's best, which is a very difficult thing, because you are giving up your ego and you're allowing yourself to put yourself in the hands of what you consider to be your teacher or master. We are trapped in a strange delusion, especially here in the Kali Yuga. And the Kali Yuga has been, as all religions, every single one in their books, whether it be the Quran or the New Testament or Old Testament, talk about various ages or yugas which will occur simultaneously, and that the final age before the promised golden age, when our consciousness will be raised, is called in Hinduism the Kali Yuga. This is supposed to be the darkest hour, which we are in now, that man has ever been in or witnessed or experienced. It means that the mind and the body are overstimulated, and that we have no choice but to believe that we are the mind and we are the body, which we are not. We are all immortal beings. We are the light body. That which has never been born can never die, and that's what you are. Your light body, which is your divine aspect, it cannot be harmed, it can't be hurt, it can't be damaged, it can't be soiled. And that is the journey to understanding your true identity as the light body. But in this Kali Yuga, which is about to end, or is coming to an end according to information and speeches, discourses that this master gave, which I sat next to him 2.5 years ago when he said the Kali Yuga will be over and this new age of consciousness will begin, which has been promised in every single religion. And that will happen in 27 years, which is now 24.5 years from now. So at this particular moment in time, as we all notice and we're all aware through the collective consciousness which has occurred because of communication, the internet, broadcasting, we're no longer one country or another. We're this world consciousness. We know immediately anything that occurs anywhere on the planet within seconds. And right now, we are in this darkest hour, which is always before the dawn, and the world has gone mad. I don't care if you are the richest man in the world or a king, or whether you're the poorest and a beggar. Everyone has lost their confidence. There is nothing but strife and hatred and anger, brutality, civil war, fear, going on throughout the planet, in every single individual. We are overstimulated, our mind and body, by this Maya, or the delusion of the world, which has been turned up to the max. And there is a battle between good and evil going on between and in each one of us every day, dozens, if not hundreds of times a day. A guy drives by in a better car than yours, and you go, oh, I'm inadequate, I don't have a nice car like this guy. A woman goes by in a very famous designer suit or carrying a Gucci bag, so other women feel inferior and that they're not as advanced as that person, as if material things really meant you were more advanced, knowing full well you can't take it with you. And that's not the reason we're here, for acquisition of transient, meaningless things. But that has, in our consciousness on this planet today, become the gold, the silver, the diamonds, the jewels, which we all seek. The mind and body are completely overstimulated. We who wish, including myself, to look towards the inward path where the real jewels and diamonds and gold appear and are, and the only thing worth possessing, have no choice because of this overstimulation. We have something which is the 5 friends of this delusion, that we are the mind and the body, called the 5 senses. You wake up in the morning, you open your eyes and you see, you smell, you touch, you taste, you hear, and immediately being controlled by the ego, which does die with you. The ego tells you from these sensations, from its 5 best friends, that you are nothing more than the mind and the body. And you then spend the rest of the day in delusion and recognizing everyone else not as a divine being equal to your own divinity, but as something that's either superior or inferior to you. It's a strange time, this dark hour. We actually worship the differences between ourselves. I'm a rich man, I'm better than a poor man. I'm an American, I'm better than a Mexican or a Canadian. I am a healthy person, I'm better than one that's not healthy, and so on and so forth. We should be and will be in the new age worshiping the sameness that we all share, which is this thread of divinity that goes through all of us and makes us collectively one. All is one of the expressions that Sai Baba gave. Unity in diversity. These were wonderful bylines and clues to really what's going on, which people are truly not interested in because the Maya is so powerful now that it's impossible to do anything but be in a serious state of judgment with yourself and everyone around you. But this is the way it's supposed to be right now. The world has gone mad. There's hatred, anger, fear, all of these horrific and amplified feelings, which is perfectly correct for this moment. because the karma, or this energy that is now pervading the consciousness of the entire planet, must come out. It cannot be taken into the promised new age of consciousness. It will simply soil it and distort it. And so it must come out of all of us, and the earth and the countries even have karmas. It must come out now. So we are all going, my God, the end of the world is coming. According to the Mayan calendar, we're going to be nuclear bombed at any time. And most importantly, and the most obvious of all, is that the biosphere is collapsing on our heads. The Greeks, and practically every culture, referred to the earth as a goddess. The Greek called the earth the goddess Gaia, and believe, and look how beautiful and magnificent she is. It's extraordinary beauty, this planet. And yet, through selfishness and ignorance, we are destroying the planet. And as we well know now, even though a dear friend and one of the first to recognize it, Al Gore, some 25 years ago, who was laughed at for coming up with a series of facts and figures from other concerned scientists around the world, that the planet was dying. We now know that that is correct. We have global warming. We know that that's happening on the planet. We know that the ozone holes, or holes in the ozone, have occurred at the north and south poles. We know that the underground water system is being poisoned by all the unfortunate things we put on the soil to grow foodstuffs and so forth, which will eventually mean, as scientists have recently reported, that the very food we grow will become carcinogenic. In fact, cancer has risen 1,000 times from 100 years ago because of the carcinogenics and the things that we have put into our lives without any care or respect for the goddess. Well, if the earth dies, then we die. Civilization comes to an end. And I believe the goddess is pissed off and will eject, just as our bodies have antibodies that get rid of all the things that soil or threaten us. I think that the goddess Gaia will throw us off the planet before she simply gives up and dies. Maybe this is a proper stepping stone to create a new renaissance on the planet, and to start all over again, especially if you believe that you are reincarnated. I personally would love to come back to a clean and spotless new world that's filled with people who are looking for the gold and silver, not on the outside, but on the inner journey, which is where eventually we will all end up. I have been blessed to work with young people my entire life. Whenever I spoke, which Swami has only allowed me to speak a couple of times, we talked about it, and he would always say, focus on the young ones. They are the future. They are the ones who are wide open, like sponges, absorbing and needing to know the answers to questions which an older generation don't have, and have become solidified in ancient thought and are actually impossible to change. Older folk need to unlearn before they can relearn, which is a very difficult task and very frightening to them. Whereas the young ones are completely open, ready to absorb, ready to learn, ready to re-identify with life and its meaning, because the world that the older folk have created is not giving them the answers which they want. In my earlier generation, there were thousands of bombers ready to destroy the entire world with a nuclear annihilation. And every day at school we would have sirens go off and do a drill to hide in basements because the world was coming to an end. Everybody was building fallout shelters. There was no doubt that nuclear annihilation was imminent. It's very interesting because that's when the peace and love generation began in the 60s, and this was very much a part of why. If you were to do studies from kindergarten on up as to what young people were afraid of, it would have been nuclear, and was nuclear annihilation. It was in the papers, it was all over, it's what everyone talked about, it was, it was real, and there was this Cold War. I and many of my generation were absolutely disenchanted with the way evolution had happened socially for so long. You're a young person, you're at 16 to 21, 22, you are fearless. The world is your oyster. You put on a backpack and go anywhere in the world you wanted. You were open to all new ideas. You had the energy. You weren't focused narrowly on anything. Then suddenly, at 25 or so, you got a job. And the next thing you know, you were working in a very strange political environment of a corporation. And you began to contract because to be part of a corporation, you have to brown nose the boss. You have to act in a way in which you are viewed as an important asset, and you will steal other people's ideas or hide when the axe comes out to cut a few people away. Next thing you know, you have a car and car payments. And then you have a wife who you're responsible to, and a family, and a mortgage on your house. You will do anything that's necessary to maintain this lifestyle. And in the process of being really in fear of losing this lifestyle, your world contracts, and the freedom and the amazing sense of the world belongs to you, which it does, leaves you. And by the time you're 30, you have joined the old boy network. You've accepted the means, the mores of what's happening and what you were taught by this older generation and this amazing corporate structure which you've been thrust into, and you lose the plot completely. You lose your freedom for thinking. You contract. You become victimized by your environment, of which we all are. That's why it's so important to choose the environment that you're in, especially now. We had a fantastic expression, which I still use to this day and feel religiously about, is don't trust anyone over 30. And I still don't, because they have joined the old boy network. They have entered a world which they cannot change, and they are not open any longer to the freedoms that they had experienced in their youth. I would rather deal with young people, and as some of you may know, I was blessed to open something called the Hard Rock Cafe when I was 22 years old in London, not having a clue that it would become a massive international organization representing the youth culture and music and American lifestyle. And also something called the House of Blues, which is throughout the United States, large venues for concerts, of which we do 18 to 19,000 shows a year. And I was always one of the youngest cats there. I mean, especially in the hard rock days. And I've spent my entire life with young people that work in restaurants or these type of venues. First of all, it's very multicultural. They're from every background you could possibly imagine. but they're all under the age of 30. And that's what my great blessing was, at one point having over 10,000 young people that I was blessed to work with and struggle to guide under the many problems that people have in the evolution of their life, and base my company on the basic human values, which I discovered here at this ashram, of very simple things. Peace. Are you running a peaceful place? Is the environment that you've created one of peace? Love, big word. Is this a loving place? Is this a place where there is a positive vibration of mutual respect and care for each other, and everyone has a common voice? Righteousness. Righteousness means doing the right thing. Is everybody doing the right thing, or are people picking up some of these negative values and lying and cheating and making decisions according to what's best for them or best for the collective? Satya, truth. Are people telling the truth? Is the whole place based on honesty? Or is it based on a delusion of various mores which are actually have no depth whatsoever? So these 5 basic values, including nonviolence, and nonviolence just doesn't mean physical nonviolence, it means mental nonviolence. The most powerful thing which you can do on this planet is not physical, it's mental. Hatred. You can bring bad vibrations into anyone's neighborhood simply by sending hate to them, or lust, or anger. So that's why this and many, many other masters have said, watch your thoughts. It's the most powerful thing you can do. And we do it without thinking. Jealousy, envy. I mean, I'm the bait for evil. I've been watching this all day long, thankfully protected by my master, and in the process being reminded that I too am on a constant journey of remembering that these things must not seep into my life, and that I must forgive myself primarily first, because it's important, because then the next step is the forgiveness of others. This is the one and only path to true, dynamic, universal love. First, forgiving yourself, and we're all very hard on ourselves for whatever. This then allows you to take positively the next step, which is the forgiveness of others. If you cannot do these 2 things, you are wasting time, you are wasting life, and this is a terrible sin to the continuing existence that you have. I am happy to have spent this time with you. I hope I've imparted a few things to you that can be helpful to you. I am here till the end of my days here at the Abode of Peace, which it certainly has become now. Sai Baba is not gone anywhere. He is more accessible now than he ever was before. His Maya was dangerous. The second he walked through that door, we all started practicing duality, which was the very thing that made us fall from the garden thousands of years ago. We forgot our identity. And the second he arrived, which is part of the phenomenon, you would say, oh, God's over there and I'm over here. You separate yourself from understanding your true identity. Now he is not here to distract you. Many, many of you young people have been pushed around by the organization of the religion. To me, religion is nothing more than a corporation that doesn't pay taxes. Spirituality is our own individual journey that we are all on to the same place. I wish you all a happy journey, an educational journey, and one in which you can learn to forgive yourself and others and be an addition to the family of man. God bless you all, and Sairam. Love is the electron in every atom. Those are God's eyes and ears. It creates the omniscience which makes God visible everywhere in the universe. Those are His eyes and ears, the electron in every atom. And it is pure love that created them, so they radiate pure love, if you will accept it. It's very noted in all his biographies, his last biography. There's photographs of me. There's a whole chapter on my experiences with Swami where he saved my life when a car went over a hill and I was asleep, and he came and put a force field around me and saved my life. I also died once, 2 years later, in a hotel room in Denver, Colorado. Swallowed my tongue. I had an epileptic fit. And out of my crown chakra, this is where the spirit comes out, I was on the ceiling watching, dead, looking at my dead corpse. This is all well documented, by the way, in all the Swami biographies, which I reluctantly tell, because you cannot believe these things unless you've experienced them. Otherwise, it's just fairy tales. Just like metaphysics. I've been brought along in lots of metaphysical things. I can do yogic things that Swami has taught me, but I can't explain them to you. But everybody's interested in the miracles. Everybody's interested in all that crazy stuff. And it's meaningless. It means nothing. It gives you a false sense of understanding what an enlightened being is all about. You are already enlightened beings. Swami's teachings, which very few people read, they're all here, came here for years for the show. I've been here 40 years. And I've watched them come to the prestige, the show, the darshan, give me a ring, give me an interview, give me this, give me. You know, no one was giving to him. The only thing he wanted, his food, love, as you call it, love. And love is emerging between two people. You know, he says, 2 or more are gathered in my name, and I am there. Because satsang, or speaking of the higher nature, which you already are a realized being, and so am I, it's just that you don't know it. Swami talked about it many times. You know, his teachings are obvious, but to dote and to care about miracles and things like that is a complete distraction. It's a delusion. It's not important. And yet that's what everyone wants to believe. Not his teachings. They want to believe in the miracles. Can I have a ring? Can I have an interview? Will you look at me? You know, will you come close to me? He is swinging in everyone's heart in a jula every moment that you breathe. Whether you know this or not, the Vedas say that you are born with a certain number of breaths. And the Vedas tell you that the breath itself is a mantra. So hum, so hum, so hum. So as you're breathing in and out, you're actually living and breathing a mantra of love. It's very difficult times right now. People are very frightened, much anger, much fear in the world. All the people who are weak, the weak ones of us, are suffering more than ever before. People are desperately looking for an answer, and they're looking outside. There's nothing outside. That's Maya. Everything is on the inward path, not the outward path. Swami is a reflection of myself. Period. He taught me that himself.
I was lucky to be very, very close to his physical form. I was very, very lucky to speak with him many times because he had projects he chose me to do through the grace, his grace. But Swami was an enlightened being, only external enlightened being. This country, many other countries, all of these masters have come since the beginning of time. So Swami happens to be the one for this particular age between probably 1950 and his recent death. Before that, there was Vivekananda, Yogananda, Ramakrishna, who died in 1865, a whole string of these masters, Jesus Christ, Mohammed. These are all messengers of the same exact human values, how to live, what to do. There's religion and there's spirituality. Religion is something that is created by man and his greed for knowledge and power. You all know this from the Russian Orthodox Church, who's in cahoots with the government like this. But that's nothing new. It was the same with the Catholics, it was the same with the Protestants, it's the same with everybody. That's religion, that's politics, that's nonsense. Spirituality is one's personal journey to the heart, to the truth. And we're all on that journey, like it or not, some more evolved than others. But we're all on that journey to the same place. I love Russia, by the way. I love you, Russian folks. Been there many times, before and after. Y'all are great. Look, it doesn't make any difference if you follow Allah, if you follow Jesus, if you follow, the teachings of Buddha, the teachings of all of these great religions, the Zoroastrians, who are now gone, the great Prussians, who had Zoroaster as their mentor, their man that brought the word down. But if you read every one of those religions, which all are cultural phenomenon that occurred at a certain time in history, and no one followed these men when they were alive. Swami's the first, because of modern technology of communication and so forth, to have so many people know about him. But the rest of these guys had Rama, supposedly the first avatar, a holy man on the planet that lived 10,000 years ago. There were 11 rishis who knew who he was. Krishna said he only had a few devotees, he could count them on one hand. Jesus had 12 disciples. After they left, the power of their words and their energy created a whole new religion, and not religion, but a whole new hope for mankind and spirituality. But all of those religions, if you read them, teach exactly the same things. The words of the masters are always the same. Love, peace, truth, nonviolence. This is what it's all about. Satya, Prema. This is taught in every single religion. It doesn't make any difference what religion you follow. Sai Baba didn't come here to start a new religion or even gain devotees. They came because they heard about him. They came because of the prestige. They came to see the freak show. Very few people read his words, and I guarantee you 90% of his devotees don't really understand who he was. And this is the reason why. Swami himself even said, I can count all my devotees on one hand. What does that mean? Because only a realized being can recognize another realized being. We didn't know that he was a reflection of ourselves. We thought he was outside. Duality is what he preached against his whole career. Duality. And at this darshan every day, this show that was put on, the second that he walked in, people practiced duality, delusion, duality. God's over there and I'm over here. Wrong. God is here in your heart, swinging in a little swing. He's available to you at any time. But everyone wanted to practice duality. They wanted to believe that there was something higher than themselves. Absolutely impossible. God made everyone in His image. And that's the light body, not the physical body. I died. I left out of my crown chakra a dead body sitting on a floor in Denver, Colorado in the mid-70s, and I'm up on the ceiling looking down at my dead body, and I started laughing. I was in the form of electricity is the only way I can describe it. I knew who I was, but I'm looking down at my dead body. I started laughing. I said, "What's that? What in the hell is that? I thought I was that, but I'm this. And this is immortal. This is forever version. So what's that? What an illusion I have been going through, thinking that I was not a divine being, or there was something else going on." This is Maya. This is the delusion of the world. This is the trap that everybody is in right now. Because this is the Kali Yuga. This is supposed to be their ages, various ages, as you may know from the Vedas. And you can read the Old Testament, you can read whatever you want to. And they all talk about the different ages and a big change coming. And eventually there's going to be a reckoning and the world will change and go back to the way it was. Peace, love, whatever. We're destroying everything. Each other, the planet, so forth and so on. But the fact remains is that, this is life. Is an opportunity. Everybody thinks they're a victim. Oh my God, this happened to me, that happened to me, this happened to me. I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim. I've been victimized. Oh, my money's been taken away. My wife's been taken away. I'm sick. This man cheated me. This is horrible. Everybody thinks they're a victim. That is the most selfish thought you can have. Because the first law of physics is for every action, there's an equal reaction. Okay, they call that karma. Whatever you put out, you're going to get back. Okay, but the point being is, you're not a victim. You're not a victim. Just like the first law of physics, for every action, there's an equal reaction. You are making your future now by what you're doing. The same thing with metaphysics as with physics. Whatever you put out, you're going to get back. This lifetime, next lifetime. You're not a victim. Mm-hmm. Only the hand that writes the script of your life, you, can erase it. No one else. So you come to this planet, you come for a short time. It's a blink in the totality of all the possible lifetimes you've been here before. And everybody takes themselves so seriously that they forget to love each other. What did the great Jesus say, which Muhammad said, which all of them said? Love others as you would love yourself. Very few people know how to do that. Because this thing, this mind, this ego, has a limited shelf life. It has a limited time. It knows it's here for 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, 70 years, and it wants control of you. It doesn't want you to take the spiritual path. You're constantly thinking, no, yes, impossible, can't believe it, so forth and so on. That makes it a very, very happy ego. And it has its best friends, the five senses. Those are the five delusions that are in your life. For instance, the first thing you do when you wake up, you open your eyes, you see, you smell, you taste, you touch. So you think you are the mind and you are the body. Totally against everything that all the masters have spoken of. Because you're not the mind and you're not the body. You're a divine being. You're simply paying your dues. You can either evolute and grow higher and erase the script and do good, or you can devolute and go backwards, and you will pay, especially if you harm other people in any way. Thinking is the most powerful thing that you can do. That was the second law of physics. Energy never dies. That's the second law of physics, proven. Never dies. It goes somewhere else. So this is an electrical machine. We all know it works on electricity. The mind works on electrical impulses. This is how the heart beats. Correct? So the point being is that where does this energy go? Okay, think of all of the good energy from the beginning of time. Okay, compassion, mercy, love, forgiveness, worship of the higher nature. All of that energy doesn't dissipate into nowhere. it goes into a nearby dimension. Fortunately, whether you want to believe it or not, Swami graced me to show me that dimension. And it's beautiful. But also, think of all the negative thoughts that man has had since the beginning of time. Lust, anger, hatred, violence, jealousy. Where does that energy go? It goes to another nearby dimension, another plane. Okay, it's dangerous stuff. And it feeds on man's energy. This is why you pray, you meditate, you be good to people, you're compassionate, you have mercy, you have all these things going, and you feel it coming back. If I'm kind to you, sincerely kind, you will feel it. And you will be happy. And that makes me happy. Okay? But if you go out and you hate somebody, or this or that, these negative forces will come down and attach themselves to you. It's like a tuning fork. You get into hatred, 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 hatred. And all of a sudden, a little filament comes from this different dimension where all the negative archetypes are, all this negative energy is, it'll attach to you. And it'll start feeding off of you because that's its food. Its food is hatred. So what it does, it keeps you angry as long as it can. It keeps you in hatred as long as you can because that's its food. That's how it exists. So you're no longer even in control of yourself. You have to be very careful. Swami said many times, as all the masters have, watch your thoughts. Thinking is the most powerful thing you can do on this planet. Because this just isn't regular energy. This is what the Hindus call prana energy. And it's a very lonely job because nobody knows who I am. I'm a myth. I'm an image. Just like today, it's so sad. Everyone is judged by their checkbook, how much money they have. Even if they're evil, rotten, killers, everything, and they've made their money, and people are so obsessed with thinking that money gives them some sort of peace, that these evil men become heroes. Even a good man. People creating a myth was part of my job for Sai Baba. So I could go out and spread. I don't care how many speeches I give, and I've only given 4 at his request. I'm looking for one man. Just one that I can change. And if the myth is important, if the myth breaks through, if the myth allows him to open up and listen, I'll take the myth. But guess what? Nobody knows who I am. I'm an enigma. Sai Baba was an enigma. No one knew who he was either. Not that I'm Sai Baba. He's inside of me. He was a realized being. But the point is, being a myth is a lonely, lonely place to be. Because people would rather believe in the image than the person. And Swami put me in this position when I was very young. I made my first $1 million when I was 17, 18 years old. I started businesses that made me famous. So then the myth began. And then he brings me here and I build this hospital for him. More myth. No one knows who I am. They don't. They just know the myth. I'm a warrior. I'm a different type of man than you can imagine. I'm no myth when it comes down to what I will do for what I believe, which he gave me, and he trusted me to forgive everybody. The true path. This is very, very important. The true path to love. Real love. Not human love. Human love is this grasping, holding, contracting, selfish nonsense. Divine love, the divine of the universe, is this ever-expanding, inclusive, 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 inclusive phenomenon. The true path to love, real love, is first, the most difficult. Forgiveness of yourself. You must learn to forgive yourself for being human and having so many frailties. Life was not meant to be easy. You wrote this book, and now you've got to read it. And the other, after you learn to forgive yourself, is to forgive others. If you learn to forgive yourself and forgive others, you are on the path of true love. Sairam. He brought me here in 2006 and he said, after many years of coming 5, 6 times a year, helping him with the hospital, being near him, sitting, you know, you don't see many white people sitting up there on the veranda. And you know what he told me when he put me up there? He said, Tigret, you are my bait for evil. I said, what do you mean, Swami? And then he said, what do you think I mean? And then I understood, because he's very much like a Zen master. You come here, and you come here because you want to evolve and you want to change. It's an opportunity. And the only way he can change you, a master can change you, is bring out of you that which needs to be changed. So if you're full of anger, or lust, or hatred, or whatever it is, jealousy, all of this will come out here, because you can face it, you can see it, and he will show you how to change. That's what he did more than anything else. That's the real reality of Sai Baba. He changed you. He changed me. And I would fall off the path, and he'd pick me up and put me back on, and he'd change me again. I'm the most imperfect of all of his devotees. Swami brought me here in 2006. He said, you stay here with me for the rest of your life, okay? And over that period of time, he gave me these plans to do a sacred city to serve mankind that will come soon, within 20 years. He asked me to give this information to the Sai family. The Sai family is not a bunch of Sai devotees, it's the entire planet.
Yes.
Those, or if it's G, they're all the same. So I have prepared that. There is a website called www.mysticnoftheseventhray.org. And you can go on and see the first installment. Came out 2 weeks ago. It took me 7 months to do. Boy, was that crazy. But it's out there. And it's interesting because Swami said to me, because this is a long-term project, it's going to take 20 years to build. Right now we're looking for sponsors and supporters to help us with Professor Keith Critchlow, who's the famous geometrist, sacred geometrist from the Prince of Wales School in London. Mm-hmm. God manifests himself in 3 ways in this dimension. Sound, light, and geometry. That's how he manifests himself. And there's a key that Dr. Critchlow opened up, which he found in all the ancient structures all over the world, in all the religions, whether it's Chartres Cathedral, whether it's mosque here and there, whether it's, you know, all these different things. He found a common thread of geometry which creates the perfect vibration. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that must be done, because this is not my field, you know, I'm a businessman, you know, I'm a builder of rock and roll houses, you know, can you imagine? No. I love it. All of these people, you know, used to put me down saying, oh, it's terrible, you sell meat, you sell alcohol, you do all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And Swami encouraged me to do it, and he told me, he said, look, God works 24 hours a day, and he has a lot more work to do at 12 midnight than he does at 12 noon. So I was his late night representative, and that's why I love all, serve all, and the way I ran my business was run on the 5 basic human values, because materialism and spirituality are intertwined. They're not 2 separate things. My father came here when we opened the hospital.
Yeah?
Yes. When we opened the hospital, my father came here. And after the opening that day, which was done by Prime Minister Rao of the Super Specialty Hospital, Swami called my father and myself into an interview room. And my father said to Sai Baba, he was not a devotee, he just came because he was proud that I had opened this hospital, just like a good father. And he said, Sai Baba, thank you so much for taking such good care of my son. Mm. And very firmly, Sai Baba said, not your son, my son. So if she feels close to Sai Baba, he is the Sai Baba, mother, yes, father.
Yes,
okay?
Yes.
The thing about evolution and about getting close to the truth is you've got to ask for it. God's first law is he will not interfere with man's free will. He will not make you do this and tell you to do this and do all this stuff. You can do anything you want. Be bad, be good, be this, be that. It's your own manufacture. But if you want him to come into your life and help you, you have to call him. Why do you think people pray to Jesus? Why are they going to give you $1 million and do all these other silly things? But he can make you learn more. He can make the pain easier. Just one of Sai Baba's expressions was, you take one step towards me, I take 100 towards you. You shed one tear for man, I shed 1,000. So you have to ask. You have to ask, or you will not have this opportunity. I gave this interview because I love my Russian brothers and sisters. People ask me every day to do what we're doing now, and I say no, no, no. But when you approached me yesterday and asked me, something in my heart said, tell him yes, because the brothers and sisters need to hear the truth. And I hope that I've spoken the truth properly. Certainly very vivaciously at the least.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But he said the first job you have in announcing these things I've given you is to bring people hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the things he was very clear about when he gave me these instructions, remember this, Tigret, these are my ideas, not your ideas. Because he knows my ego is the size of the Ukraine.
Show me how you do that trick, the one that makes me scream. He said, the one that makes me laugh. He said, and threw his arms around